Hello YouTube, hi, my name is Mark. This is Nixon Motorsports. Hey, this channel is all about motorsports, from racing, exotic cars, and even simulators. If you're new to this channel, we focus primarily on racing. And the reason we do that is we have an active race program underway. We've been racing for almost 20 plus years at this point. And so a lot of the products that we use within our team itself, we'll do reviews on, we'll talk about what works, what doesn't, what we recommend, tips, tricks, you know, the kind of lessons learned over the years. So that's the bulk of the videos that we've done, and many, many more coming along that line, okay? Hey, so today's video is a race car driver's home simulator. What he uses, what he likes, what works, and so on. So come on, let's get into it, okay? So I need to say, before we get going on this video, just a little bit of history and disclaimer here as well. So as I mentioned, I've been racing for over 20 years plus, all Formula race cars, and around 2006, thereabouts, actually started a business that was motorsports simulators. We built professional quality simulators for drivers and sold systems all over the planet to, you know, IndyCar, Champ Car, ALMP racers, and so on. And I mention that because I have an opinion about simulators. I know a little bit. I wouldn't say I'm an expert at all. And there's many channels and many folks out there talking about simulators. I only say that because today we're going to talk about the simulator that I am using as my go-to simulator today, and I thought I would just let you know some of the history and the background. The second part of this point is I'm going to show some products. We don't have affiliation with any of these manufacturers, no sponsorships whatsoever. This is simply me sharing what I use, why I use some of the parts that I do, why the system is configured the way it is, okay? So let's get on with the video. So today I'm going to give you a little tour of the simulator that I use for continuous driving, testing, and so on, various different tracks and cars, and talk to you about some of the specifics of this simulator and what I believe is a good starting place for you as a driver. So this simulator that I'm going to show you is not one that I manufactured. We quit building simulators, oh gosh, it's been quite a few years now, around 2009 I think it was, thereabouts. But I have a lot of experience around pedals, steering systems, motion, 2, 3, 4, 5 axis motion based systems, and so on. I understand, and some of you who hesitate on simulators, if you have a race car, for an example, and some of you may be frustrated with simulators to a degree, some not. They've really taken hold over the years. You have to understand a simulator is a close approximation to your race car. Now, many things in modern day simulators can actually be done quite well. I would say steering systems, you know, the force feedback steering systems, some of them are actually quite good. Pedals, I would have to argue, from a feel perspective, are still poor. And we put a lot of development in that years ago with the company that we had, with hydraulic-based pedal assemblies and so on. But that physical feel for pedals is still, I would say, not quite there. Visual, of course, right? So what your eyes see, a simulator is not going to give you that exact feeling that you're going to experience in a race car. I mean, you're trying to take a three-dimensional world that we live in and change that into a two-dimensional space in front of you. So whether it's VR headsets or physical screens in front of you, there is some adaptive need that you have, but visual, I would say, is not a huge problem. Most people can get through that. I would say the hardest thing to mimic in real world to simulators would have to be the force on your body. Now, vibrations and sensations and even wind and other things can be done. That's not as difficult. Motion is more difficult. We spent a lot of time on that ourselves, so I'll speak about that. I mean, we built motion-based systems. They all were from 3 up to 5-axis systems. No matter what you do, even if you're, this is again my opinion, even if you're a large Formula One race team where you spend millions on your own proprietary sims, force and feel on the human body is extremely difficult to achieve. And at best, those systems will produce about 1 g gravity by physically tilting or moving the entire sim apparatus itself. But that sensation falls off. So for an example, when you enter a high-speed corner, if it's a long sweeping high-speed corner, your forces on your body in a let's say high G race car will come on and bite and ultimately sustain for a period of time through the duration actually of a particular corner. That's hard to feel exactly like you do in a real race car. Having said everything that I just did, simulators are a valuable tool for racers, and I believe that deeply. Again, we built a business and built systems because of that belief, and they are continuing to get better and better and better and better. So I would suggest to any of you who are thinking, why should I invest and have a simulator? If you're a racer, if you're competing, there is no other tool more valuable outside of continuous track time in your car, right? Having a simulator, it keeps your, it keeps you sharp. It allows your hand-eye coordination to develop, and clearly things like memory mapping, new racetracks, trying different lines, different setups, trying different scenarios. You can do that over and over and over in a simulator, whereas your cost per mile in a race car or just physical limitations in a race car do not allow that to occur. So if you don't have a sim, I would suggest you think about it. If you do have a sim, I think the right attitude and approach of using your sim is good advice. They are a good tool. They do help you. And again, if you have any doubts, look at a lot of the up and coming racers of the world today. I mean, from the Lando Norrises, in F1 to Carl Sainz and many others. Simulators are one of their big tools in their toolbox. Okay. All right, so let me pan down and show you the simulator that I use. And again, I no longer build systems. I haven't for years. So let's start. Let me pan down to this system, and let me just talk about this simulator a little bit, and call out a few things that I think are worth mentioning. Now, I guess to start with here, the very, very basic, right? I'm a Formula race car driver. So seating position for me is important. It should be important for you as well. Now, if you want a simulator that is multi-purpose, the seating position can be different. You can use a more GT style upright seating position. That's more common, to be quite honest with you, in sims. This one, and I'll just pan down, so you can see in my seating position here, the basic sim chassis itself is a Formula race car seating position. So for me, that's very important. I would suggest that would be the first place you start, that you as a driver think about what's the right seating position for your primary use of your race car, okay? So from there, well, let's talk about, I suppose, the more obvious, screens. I could talk about screens for hours, but let me make this, I guess, very short and to the point. So I'm currently using, as you can tell, triple screen setup. So the one thing, regardless of what you use, I would suggest, if you can, and if you're going to use screens, physical monitors, triple screen is, I think, the way to go. And why do I say that? Because the wider your screen is, and with triple screens, you can actually curve them around. Ideally, you want from your seating position where your peripheral vision is in line with what you see in front of you, right? So when you turn into corners, when you look left to right, you should and you want to have as much active screen in front of you to mimic the racetrack. So I have tried many screen sizes over the years. I've used VR headsets, and I'll come back to VR headsets in a minute, but this example I'm using here for my sim, these are 32-inch 4K screens. They are curved screens themselves, so it helps with more of a continuous radius curvature in front of me, and it gives me pretty good line of sight. Now, on display, so you could ask yourself, well, how big is too big? There's actually a little bit of common sense here. For an example, if you put 70-inch, 80-inch 4K screens, 3 of them in front of you, that physical space would be huge. You would need to have, basically, it's your distance from your seating position to your display really is going to determine how big your displays need to be. So just kind of keep that in mind. But in this example, I use 32-inch triples, and for my seating position and setup, it works quite well. All right, so let's talk about a couple other things that I think are important. Clearly, let's get some of the basics out of the way. So we talked about seating position, we talked about screens, sound system. You're going to need to have a good sound system. In this example, I just use a Logitech system here itself. I believe it's a 5.1 system, a couple mounted up front with a center speaker, 2 in the rear, and your sub. The other so whatever sound system you use, that's a good idea. Now, if your noise is an issue, then a good headset would make sense. And there's a few of them out there. So for an example, I use this nice wireless headset with chat, and I'll use that when I want to minimize sound. So for sure, you're going to want to have a little bit of rumble and shaking. So here's an example of a butt kicker here that's mounted to the back of my chassis. It's a low-cost item. I would suggest you have that on your sim. It gives you just that little extra vibration and thump. So if you think about it, rolling over rumble strips or whatever imperfections on the racetrack, it gives you that little extra sensitivity and feel, and it's a low-cost item to do, okay? So let me talk about phonetic, and as you can see, here's my steering wheel that I use in my sim. So this is the DD2. This is the top of the line phonetic direct drive steering assembly. I can't say enough positive things about this. This is a fantastic direct drive force feedback steering system. it produces so much force that you can hurt yourself, and I'm being serious about it. So obviously that's adjustable. You can tune all that to the different type of cars that you're going to drive. What I love about this system, and I'm sure there's a couple others now that are close to this, this translates what you feel from your front end of the car, or just think of it in general. When you're driving your race car, through your steering wheel, you have a strong sense of how the car is behaving. For an example, if you're locking up your brakes, if you have understeer, that type of thing, you will feel it through your steering wheel. This does that. So I got to tell you, the Fanatic DD2 steering wheel is fantastic. Now I'll just pan in here. You can see my pedal assemblies. This is a Fanatic triple pedal assembly on this sim. It's okay. I've used probably 15 or more pedal assemblies from different manufacturers. This one's okay. It's not that expensive. It works all right. It's like most of them, spring-based. And I've used, and I'm a believer in more advanced hydraulic pedal assemblies, and we've done that ourselves. I've tried a few of those out there in the market today. Honestly, I'm just not that impressed with them. I ended up selling them. This one is okay. I'm not that excited about it either, to be quite frank with you. Mostly, it's the feel of your braking. So throttle pedal, not that big a deal. It's the sensation through feedback when you're braking that is hard to mimic from your race car, at least in my experience. And so I just wanted to share that, okay? So let's talk about one other little thing that's pretty cool. Now you might not see or notice what this is, but here's this tubing, this conduit here. And I have one on both sides over here. That is actually, that's actually plumbing for air. So I have a fan that is producing airflow based on vehicle speed. So think about it. Open wheel race car, you have wind and such over your helmet and so on. That's what that is doing. And this is from Sim Racing Studio. If you want to go check them out, we're not sponsored, so reach out to them directly. But it's not that expensive. If you're a Formula race car driver, I would suggest adding a fan device like this that's in sync with your vehicle speed is just a nice little touch. So as I pan over here, just walk over to show you this. This is my computer. Looks pretty cool, right? With all the RGB lighting and so on. So let me talk about the computer just a little bit. So in sim racing, especially when you're going to have 4K screens, and if you're going to have 3 of them, if you think about the demand on your video system, it's really intense. So you're going to want to make sure whatever computer you're using, that you have one of the top end GPUs for your computer. So I happen to use the GeForce RTX, let me glance here, this is the 2080 Ti model. It's a couple of years old now. It was top of the line when that came out a couple of years ago. This is a 64-bit, 64 gigabyte Windows 10 Pro computer. All solid state discs, of course, water cooled, and so on. You invest in the money for your computer. Make sure you spend the money on very fast memory and disk. I have an 8-core CPU that I think is the i9 in this particular unit, 3.6 gig CPU. you're going to want a beast of a computer. And again, don't scrimp on the graphics. You're going to want to make sure you have a top-of-the-line graphics card. If you're going to want to put high frame rate, high resolution, which you will want to, on your simulator. Okay, so that's my advice on that end. So as you can tell, I have triple screens. I talked about that and what screens I'm using. So why not VR? Now, I'm not against VR. In fact, I have a couple Oculus VR headsets. Here's my impression and why I went back to triple screens. So my first reaction with a VR headset was, oh my God, this thing is insane. The immersion that you have was crazy. In fact, think of it this way, you know, you climb in your race car and you strap in, you look up and you check your mirrors, you're looking around the pits or wherever you may be sitting. That's the sensation you have with these things, which is great. A negative, some people can get a little disoriented and dizzy with a VR. It's coming at you so intensely from a visual point of view that movement that's too fast, you know, if the car spins or things like that, you know, could really get you disoriented. I found that to be true for myself a little bit as well, but if you think about just vision up, you know, get your line of sight down track and focus that way, you know, I was fine with that as well. So I'm a huge fan of VR, but after using a couple different headsets for, gosh, 6 months or more, maybe close to a year, I decided I wanted to go back to triple screens, and I went to the 4K setup that I have currently. And ultimately, the reason I did was the visual clarity is just not there yet with the technology of the VR headsets. When you're looking at a 4K screen and you see the amount of detail, you know, because the pixel quality is so intense from the 4K monitors, it's superior today. Now, when VR technology catches up to that level, I'm going to stay with triple screen setup. I just wanted to share that with you, and that's why I did that. And again, it's not a slam on VR headsets. I just don't think they're quite ready yet from a technology perspective. Okay. Okay, so I'm doing a lot of talking. I'm showing you the different pieces of this sim. I'll just do a couple laps here really quick, show you what this sim is like, and then we can wrap up from there, all right? Hey, so I forgot to mention, I got one other little piece here that I'll focus to. You can see this small camera here that's mounted. Actually, look at my mess back here, but you'll see another camera mounted here, down around the pedals. You know, so why am I doing that? I do that because I can actually video record and stream sessions, so you can actually see me as a driver on track. You can actually see the car perform on track. You can see my pedal activity and so on. It's not that uncommon. If you look at some of the videos that a lot of the professional sim drivers are doing, that's the same thing they're doing. Why you might want to consider that, again, it's not needed. But if you have a driver coach, for an example, you could have a driver coach actually connect to you or watch you while you are on track and provide a little coaching from some remote point of view, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna take the current IndyCar on track at Road America. So just do a lap or two on this thing. Okay, so now I'm going to take a LMP2 car on the Road Atlanta track. Just do a couple laps here, see what this is like. Yeah, get my adjustment right. Guess that's not too bad.
Pit lane speed limit is 72 kilometers per hour.
Another lap.
You've just done a 119.00.
So I'm going to try, this is the Red Bull Ring. I just downloaded this track. I haven't been on it. Excuse. And this is the McLaren, I think it's the NP4, I think is the car. So I haven't driven that either. Again, excuse. So let's see what it's like. Should be interesting. Do this.
Was at 115.3.
Anyway, that's it for today. You know, I hope you enjoyed the video. This was not an attempt to be a thorough overview of everything about simulators. There's a ton of videos out there. I would suggest go look at that. But this was just me as a driver, a race car driver, wanting to share with you what I use in the home setup. And I hope there are some learnings that you took away from this video. And anyway, like always, I want to thank you for supporting this channel. I want to thank you for subscribing and telling your friends about what we do. If you have any ideas of what you would like to see, go ahead and share. We have a ton of racing related products that we're queuing up that we will be releasing in the months to come. So stay tuned. And like always, I want to thank you. Ciao. You have a good day. Bye.